Have you ever asked yourself what happens with the thousands of new cars that nobody buys? While the dealers tell you that there is shortage, the reality is much more dark and fascinating. Today we are going to travel to the places where the shine of the chrome fades under the dust of the oblivion. We will discover why the brands prefer to crush perfect machines before lowering their prices, and we will reveal to you the best-kept secret so that you can dominate the negotiation. Prepare yourself to enter in the exodus of the machines. Let us begin. The cost of the rent of the ground floor plan. To understand the true agony of a car that not is sold, we must enter in the financial offices and analyze the system of loans of inventory, known in the industry as the floor plan. Almost no dealer in the world has enough money in his bank account to buy in cash the 300 or 500 vehicles that he exhibits in his lot. In its place, they function under a system of massive credit. A bank or the own financial division of the brand lends the money to the dealer so that this can acquire the cars from the factory. But this money is not free. For each unit that is parked under the sun, the dealer must pay a daily interest. It is a form of financial rent of the ground. Imagine that a car has a price of invoice of $50,000 and the bank charges a rate of interest of the 6 or the 7% annual. That means that vehicle costs the distributor between $8 and $10 each day only for existing. If we multiply that figure by 100 cars that carry detained more than 3 months, we are talking of thousands of dollars monthly that evaporate directly from the profits of the business. The shine of the spotlights over the new bodywork hides a constant hemorrhage of capital. A car that carries a year without selling itself can have cost the dealer more than $3,500 only in bank interests, without counting the cost of the insurance and the physical space that it occupies. This is the technical reason for which the managers of sales enter in panic when they see that the supply of days of market exceeds the 90 or the 120 days. The vehicle leaves of being an opportunity of profit to convert itself into a toxic debt that consumes the resources that the dealer needs to pay salaries and services. Each morning that a salesperson arrives to the lot and sees that same model that nobody wants. What really is seeing is a cash register that subtracts money of silent and systematic form, the invisible degradation in the lot. A common error of the consumer is to think that a car with 0 kilometers always is in optimal conditions of functioning, without mattering how much time it has spent parked. However, a vehicle is a machine designed for the movement, and the prolonged inactivity at the outdoors is one of its most fierce enemies. When a car remains stopped during 6, 8 or 12 months in the same place, it begins to suffer an invisible but deep degradation. The first component in surrendering is the tire. The constant weight of almost 2,000 kilos pressing over the same point of contact against the hot asphalt deforms the internal structure of the rubber, creating what is known as flat spots. These deformations provoke vibrations in the steering that often cannot be corrected, neither even with a professional balancing, forcing the total replacement of the tires before the car has its first owner. Then there is the chemistry of the fluids. The oil of the engine, although it not be used, starts to oxidize and to absorb the humidity of the internal condensation due to the changes of temperature between the day and the night. The rubber gaskets and the seals of the doors, exposed to the ultraviolet radiation without the benefit of the lubrication that produces the regular use, begin to dry out and to crack, what in the future will translate into filtrations of water and annoying wind noises. But the most critical damage occurs inside the system of fuel. The modern gasoline, loaded with ethanol, has a short, useful life. After 90 days, the chemical components begin to separate and to create a species of varnish or gummy sediment that can obstruct the injectors and damage the high-pressure pump in the moment in which someone tries to turn on the engine for a test of driving. The brake discs, manufactured in cast iron, develop a layer of corrosive rust that not always disappears with a soft braking, being able to leave permanent marks that affect the efficiency of braking. A new car that has spent 1 year in the oblivion of the lot is, technically, a car that requires a deep mechanical intervention before being delivered, although the odometer marks barely 5 or 10 kilometers of journey. The cycle of the 3 stages of discount. When a vehicle arrives to the dealer and is parked in the front row, its price is marked by the hope and the maximum profit margin. However, the financial clock not itself stops, and the system of discounts begins to activate itself of automatic form as the weeks pass. The first stage is the brand incentive. Here, the manufacturer intervenes to help the distributor, offering bonuses that allow to lower the price without the business owner losing his operative gain. Are those announcements that we see with rebates of $3,000 or $5,000. In this phase, the car still is young, has that intact new smell, and the market sees it as a fresh option. But if the vehicle exceeds the 180 days in the inventory, we enter in the second stage, the stage of the sacrifice of the margin. The dealer, suffocated by the daily interest payment to the bank, decides to renounce to his commission with such of to recover the principal capital. In this point, the salesperson already not earns money by the sale, but that the objective is simply to stop the cash hemorrhage. The price lowers drastically, approaching itself dangerously to the original invoice cost. It is here where many buyers believe to have found the offer of their life, without knowing that they are acquiring an asset that the business already considers a burden. The third and most dramatic phase is the liquidation below the cost. This happens when a model becomes virtually unsellable. It can be because arrived a new generation of the vehicle with a much more modern design, or because the specific model has a configuration of color and equipment that nobody desires. In this instance, the financial manager takes a painful decision: to sell the car losing real money. They prefer to lose $2,000 or $3,000 in a single transaction today than to continue paying hundreds of dollars in interests each month for a car that could stay there another year more. The fascinating and terrifying is that exist units that, despite of having discounts of $10,000 or more, continue without moving themselves. Are the called inventory nails. These vehicles project a shadow over all the lot, reminding to the sales team their failure each time that they walk next to them. The market is an implacable judge, and at times neither even the gift of the price can save a product that has lost its emotional and technical relevance against the competition. The vehicles of demonstration and courtesy. When a new car becomes too old to be sold as such, but the direct discounts not have worked, the dealers recur to a very astute legal and accounting maneuver: the change of status to demonstration vehicle or courtesy unit. For this to work, the manager must assign to it circulation plates and begin to use it. The objective is that the odometer exceed a specific figure, usually between the 3,000 and the 5,000 kilometers. At doing this, the vehicle stops of being legally new to the eyes of many bank and insurance institutions, allowing that the dealer relabel it as a certified pre-owned. This movement, that seems a loss of value, is in reality a lifesaver. At converting it in a pre-owned of low mileage, the business can offer different interest rates, often more attractive for certain profiles of clients that not qualify for a new car credit but that look for something almost without use: the internal cannibalization of parts. In the back corridors of the service area, far from the view of the clients and of the security cameras, occurs one of the most dark secrets of the automotive industry: the cannibalization of parts. Imagine to an important client that has bought a luxury truck of $80,000. At the 2 weeks, a critical sensor fails or an electronic module itself burns. The client arrives furious, demanding an immediate solution. The workshop chief reviews the inventory of spare parts and discovers with horror that the necessary piece not will arrive from the factory until within 3 weeks by logistics problems. To avoid that the client cancel the purchase or initiate a legal lawsuit for a defective product, the service manager receives a silent order. Go to the new cars lot, search an identical unit that not itself has sold and take from it the piece. This process converts the new cars that carry months without selling themselves in donors of mechanical organs. Themselves are extracted computers, injectors, aesthetic moldings, air conditioning knobs, or even transmission components to repair cars of clients that already paid. The new car remains then incomplete, like an empty shell in wait of that the replacement piece arrives someday to be reinstalled. The problem is that, in the hurry of these emergency transplants, the technicians can damage plastic clips, leave bad connected cables, or introduce dirt in sealed systems. When finally arrives the new piece and itself is installed in the donor car, the factory integrity itself has lost forever. That vehicle, that still itself promotes as new and perfect, already has been disassembled and reassembled of artisanal form in a dusty lot. It is an extreme survival practice that demonstrates that, for a dealer, a car that not itself sells not only is a loss of money, but a resource that they are willing to sacrifice to save the immediate reputation before a client that already they have in the hand. The hidden world of the wholesale auctions. When a dealer exhausts all his local options to sell an unit that has accumulated dust during more than 300 days, occurs a phenomenon of financial surrender. The inventory manager accepts that that vehicle will find a home through the traditional sale channels to the public. It is in this moment when the car enters in the wholesale auction circuit, a closed and dizzying ecosystem where only participate professionals with commercialization license. Not we are talking of the public auctions of used cars, but of massive platforms where the objective is the total cleaning of the accounting balances of the agencies. In these places, the emotional value of the car disappears by complete and is replaced by a cold mathematical calculation of volume. The dealers usually package their failures in lots. Not they auction a single difficult unit, but that they assemble groups of 10, 20 or 50 vehicles to attract the big national resellers. It is a market where the speed is more important than the price. The dealer prefers to accept a loss of $5,000 per unit today same, before to allow that those cars continue occupying physical space and consuming working capital. The buyers in these auctions are sharks of the sector that have the infrastructure to move these cars to other regions of the country where the demand is distinct. What is an inventory nail in a cosmopolitan city saturated of electric sedans can be a valuable merchandise in a rural zone that still demands simple and reliable combustion engines. This auction process is the first step of the Great Exodus. Once that the hammer falls and the transaction itself closes, arrive the car carrier trucks by the night to empty the back patios of the agencies. For the business owner, to see those cars moving away in the horizon is an immense relief. They have achieved to transform stagnant iron into liquid money, although it be at a painful price. However, for the cars, this is the beginning of a degradation in their status. They have passed from being the crown jewels in an illuminated exhibition room to being simple opportunity assets that will be resold in second-category lots, often losing their original factory warranties and entering in a limbo where their maintenance history begins to become blurry. The destination in the foreign land and emerging markets. If the national auctions not achieve to absorb the excess of inventory, the automotive corporations activate their export networks toward emerging markets. This is the definitive exile of the machines. Thousands of vehicles that were manufactured under strict standards for demanding markets end being shipped in gigantic cargo vessels with destination to ports in Africa, the Southeast Asian or the most remote regions of South America. What for a consumer in an advanced economy is an obsolete model without the last touchscreen or with a previous generation design, for a client in an emerging market represents a premium status symbol and an indestructible mobility tool. In these countries, the perception of value changes radically. A model that was rejected in a great metropolis by not having wireless connectivity or by being too noisy, is received with enthusiasm in places where the mechanical robustness and the ease of repair are the true priorities. The manufacturers take advantage of these cultural and economic differences to get rid of the production surpluses that threaten to collapse the prices in their principal markets. It is a brand protection strategy. They prefer to send 10,000 units to the other side of the ocean than to sell them at half price locally and ruin the resale value of the clients that paid the full price. This export flow creates a fascinating paradox. In the streets of Lagos or in the rural roads of the Andes, themselves can see fleets of new vehicles that seem to have come out of a time capsule. Are units that never themselves sold in their country of origin and that now live a second opportunity in a completely different environment. However, this exile has a logistic and ethical cost. Many times, these cars are sent without the adequate technical support, without an established spare parts network and facing themselves to lower quality fuels that end damaging their emission systems in short time. The car survives, but it does so in an environment for the which not was originally designed, converting itself in a rolling reminder of the production excesses of the global industry. The leasing to fleets and rental companies. Exists a massive exit of inventory that the manufacturers keep like an ace under the sleeve to square their sales numbers at the close of each quarter, the agreements with corporate fleets and car rental companies. When the inventory of a specific model reaches alarming levels of overproduction, the brand calls the big international rental companies and offers them a deal that they not can reject. Then they sell hundreds or thousands of units with discounts that can arrive to the 40 or 50% of their commercial value, with the condition that the units themselves put in circulation immediately and themselves maintain in the fleet by a short period, usually of 12 to 18 months. This is the most fast form of cleaning the inventory of a single blow. For the manufacturer, these sales count as delivered units, what allows to inflate the reports of success before the shareholders and Wall Street. However, it is a tactic that sacrifices the future of the model. When these rental companies decide to renew their fleet barely 1 year after, flood the market of used cars with thousands of identical units, with the same basic grey colour and the same limited equipment. This offer saturation provokes that the resale value of that specific model itself plummet for all the owners, including those individual clients that paid the full price in the dealer. The circle is vicious and destructive for the financial health of the brand at long term. The client that bought the car for its value and prestige discovers, 2 years after, that his vehicle is worth a fraction of what he expected, because there is a tide of rental cars flooding the auctions and the pre-owned lots. These fleet cars usually are mistreated, with interiors worn by the constant use of tourists and business travelers that never themselves worried about to care for a good of others. The final destination of these cars, after their brief and exhausting life in the rental world, is to be sold in public auctions, closing so their life cycle as first-category products to convert themselves into low-cost merchandise that only looks for an owner that ignore its turbulent past. The scrapping and recycling as last option. When all the strategies of sale, export and rental fail, the automotive industry recurs to its most extreme and dark measure. Exists a point of no return where the brand decides that it is preferable to destroy the car completely before that to damage its prestige, allowing that itself sell at ridiculously low prices. This is the shredder utilized as prices policy. If a luxury manufacturer allowed that its surpluses were sold with discounts of the 70% to empty the inventories, it would destroy instantly the brand exclusivity and would infuriate its most faithful clients that paid the total price. To protect the market integrity, themselves send entire lots of new vehicles directly to the recycling and scrapping plants. It is a process choreographed with a mathematical coldness. Themselves extract the fluids, themselves remove some electronic components that can be reused in the post-sale service, and then the hydraulic press reduces a masterpiece of the engineering to a compressed metal cube in a matter of seconds. Not itself treats of a product failure, but of a marketing decision executed with mechanical violence. The brand prefers to declare the total loss before the insurances and the fiscal authorities than to see its most prestigious models being auctioned in low-cost fairs. This practice itself maintains under a strict confidentiality contract with the recycling companies. Not themselves allow cameras, and the personnel must assure himself that no unit come out from there in one piece. It is the most cruel final destination for a machine designed to last decades. The sacrifice of these cars is the form in which the industry maintains the illusion of scarcity and value. In place of to benefit the consumer with accessible prices, the system chooses the product extermination to artificially sustain a prices structure that already not itself sustains by itself single. The metal returns to the foundry, the leather itself discards, and the glass itself is crushed, closing a cycle of waste that is the best-kept secret of the motor giants. How the smart buyer takes advantage of this situation. Despite of the brand's efforts to hide these surpluses, the informed consumer has a unique opportunity if he knows where to look. To identify the called lot orphans is the key to obtain discounts that seem impossible in a normal market. These are vehicles that have survived the auctions filter and the storage fields and that still themselves find in the most distant corner of the dealer. To find them, not there is to look at the bodywork shine, but at the manufacturing label stuck in the driver door frame. A smart buyer never asks for the list price without before verifying the month and the year in which the car came out from the assembly line. If the date indicates that the vehicle has been waiting for an owner for more than 365 days, the negotiation power changes hands radically. The salesperson is under an immense pressure to get rid of that specific unit, since each day that passes represents a loss by showroom financing interests. At pointing out this fact, the buyer can demand discounts that the salesperson is desperate to give, often eliminating all the profit margins with such of to clean the accounting balance. This practical guide for the saving requires patience and a total lack of emotional attachment for the last cry models. The lot orphans usually are units with little common color configurations or options packages that not fitted with the average buyer. However, mechanically, they are new cars with full warranty. At taking advantage of the desperation of an agency that needs to report the sale to reach its quarterly quota, a client can take himself a high-range machine at the price of a basic model. It is the only form in which the common consumer can recover a bit of the value that the industry tries to destroy systematically in its storage fields and shredders.